Welcome to Adeliz, the Cinder Wind. So we have Adeliz. It's going to be one colorless mana, blue and a red. Flying and haste, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, what are we doing with this deck? She is definitely going to reward us by having a lot of wizards on the battlefield and casting instant or sorceries. Nothing really too crazy with this build. There are a couple different wizard sets you can end up going with, but I found that the best way to kind of use Adeliz is to get as many wizards on the battlefield as quickly as possible. So that may include using some wizards that may not be strong in your eye per se, but simply just having those wizards on the battlefield and then start casting your normal instant and sorcery spells you would cast within a blue-red deck will usually be more than enough to allow you to kind of get that nice wizard alpha strike. But let's go and take a look at some of the wizards that we are running in here. We have some good options coming in at the 1-drop. We have Sage, which allows us to interact with the top part of our library. We also have Grim Lavamancer, which is going to allow us to kind of use some of that spot removal or send that damage up top. And then stuff like Siren Storm Tamer is going to allow us to protect some of our key creatures. Some of the other 1-drops we do have, it's Soulscar Mage, which is going to turn some of our burn spells into those -1 counters, which is really nice. And then Lava Runner, it's a great thing to get down early game. You can get those +1 bonuses going, or once it gets to late game, it's going to get that +2 and have haste, so you can actually cast it late game and then start casting some of your instant or sorceries and kind of going from there. Outside of the 1-drops, we do have some good utility wizards that enter the battlefield. We have Adeliz Click that's going to allow us to interact with our opponent's hand. Dualcaster Mage is going to allow us to flash that in and copy an instant or sorcery spell. Now, technically, it's not going to be casting the spell, so we're not going to get that Adeliz trigger, but at least with Dualcaster Mage, it keeps us open with copying any sort of spell like that and getting the benefits from it. And of course, you always want to run Snapcaster Mage. It's going to turn your entire graveyard into an awesome instant or sorcery pool. We have a couple different enter the battlefield wizards in here. Enter the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library with Augur Bolas, and then Mancer is going to allow us to enter the battlefield and return an instant or sorcery back to our hand. Now, as far as our key utility wizards, we have a couple different wizards that kind of provide a really nice impact as soon as they hit the board. We have stuff like a zombie. We're going to be able to get that down on turn 5. Hopefully, we've been making our land drops, getting those wizards down. We can untap a wizard that we control to draw a card. Venser is going to allow us to kind of bounce some spells back to our opponent's hand. And then Naru is going to be a great way for us. So let's say we are swinging in with 3 or 4 or 5 wizards. We flash her in. We can copy an instant or sorcery spell, or simply just flash her in for a +1/+1 wizard tribal bonus. It's always really nice. There are also a couple wizards in the deck that we are running that have a reduced cost. Goblin Electromancer is going to give us that instant or sorcery reduced cost of 1, and then Stony Brook is going to give us that wizard spell reduced at 1 too. Now, outside of the wizards, you definitely want to run some sort of package to where if something happens to your wizards, let's say that you get hit by a board wipe or something like that, you want to be able to make the most use out of your instant or sorcery. So you definitely want to run some sort of token package. We have Dawson of Perfection, which actually works out perfectly. It's going to make those 1/1 human wizard tokens. Young Pyromancer is going to give us those 1/1 elemental tokens, and the Talrand is going to give us those 2/2 Drake tokens. You basically just want to set it up to where you can get as much value out of your instant or sorceries as possible, and these 3 cards definitely really help you kind of push an alternative game plan in addition to Adeliz's wizards. Now, of course, we are in blue-red. Some of the spells that we do want to cast that work really well. You're going to have some sort of burn option in here. Lightning Bolt, Electrolyze is going to allow us to draw an additional card. And then Wizard Lightning basically turns into a Lightning Bolt once we get wizards onto the battlefield. We're also running stuff like Is It Charmed that has that nice mode effect, and then Magma Jet is going to allow us to kind of dig a little bit deeper into our library. Now, one of the ways that this deck really shines is by getting some of these instant or sorceries that infect our entire board state. Stuff like Warlord's Fury and Crash Through. They're both really cheap. They're going to allow us to draw a card and have an immediate impact as soon as we cast them. Also, stuff like Downpour, tapping 3 target creatures on your opponent's side of the board, especially in 1 versus 1. That's going to usually be more than enough to allow you to kind of get in for that alpha strike and really kind of make sure you can get that damage going. And then also stuff like Seismic Stomp and then Dynacharge. It's going to really allow us to make sure that creatures can't block our wizards, or giving that +2/+2 in addition to Adeliz's bonus usually is going to make sure we have a really nice wizard force on the battlefield. Of course, you're in blue, you need to run a lot of card draw, so I'm not kind of skip over these, not really highlight them too much, but you just want to have some sort of card advantage. You want to be able to dig deeper into your library and at the same time be buffing your wizards. So any sort of spell package. Now, this is 1 versus 1 commander, so you definitely want to run Brainstorm and a few other ones in here, but since this is 1 versus 1 commander deck, we are limited to what we can use, and these are the card draw options that we do have. Now, as far as some of the spells that really help us kind of push our wizard's ability, we have stuff like Binding of Thassa. We're always going to want to be swinging in with our wizards so we can deal that combat damage to a player. We're going to be able to draw a card. Brawl's expertise is pretty much going to be online for any card in our deck, so we can bounce stuff back to our opponent's hand and at the same time cast a spell out of our hand, giving us that nice bonus. And then like I mentioned earlier, stuff like Turnabout, tap all of our opponent's things, whatever we need to tap them out for, whether it's their mana at the beginning of their upkeep or tapping in all their creatures. That's going to allow us to kind of push in past our opponent. Now, Insult to Injury, absolutely wonderful card in the deck. Damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control will deal damage, it deals double that damage this turn instead. That's really going to help you kind of push in that Alpha Strike. And of course, you've got the sorcery, the injury part on the back end coming out of the graveyard. And then stuff like Mizium Skin. You know, we're going to get that overload cost for 2 mana to give all of our wizards +0/+1. That might actually kind of put it in this point to where with that +1 toughness, it might make it to where, you know, some certain blocks will kind of work out into our advantage and at the same time take care of some of our opponent's creatures. Last but not least, we're running the three drop random assortment of creatures. I don't know, I love them. When a new set comes out, I always love kind of seeing what they come up with. But yeah, basically it's a 3-drop flying prowess style creature. We have We Dragonauts getting +2, Spellheart Chimeras equal to number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, and then Bloodwater is going to have that prowess, and at the same time, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard when it enters the battlefield. But that is going to be it for the deck tech. I do have 3 gameplay videos up for you right now if you want to check them out, and if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.